speech. It's not like very gory and horrific. It's not. It's very inspiring, especially the father who like tremendous faith, tremendous faith. I think it'll be very, very inspiring. I've seen them speak. I've seen recordings of them speak. I think only she's English. There's going to be more of an interview style anyway. It's not going to be a formal lecture because only she speaks a good English, and it's in the interview. There are three coming, but in the interview, it's much easier. You keep it interesting. You know how to ask the questions. That's the suggested format that will really work. So, talking about the hostages, the siblings in captivity that will be joining us on December 7th here at Chabad. So if you're watching and you want to be part of an amazing, amazing program, Sunday, December 7th, I don't think we're going to do it online, be in person at Chabad. MyChabadCenter.org. You have to be here. Sidel, one of our board members, says you need to be here. And Sidel says we don't argue with Sidel. She has front row seats and she says she wants the whole show packed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihiyah b'dvaro. No, we probably have more like Sidel. Good. Brand new. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching us, say hi so we can see who's joining for this very wonderful, beautiful class on the wife of Lot. It's going to be great. Okay, ready, ladies and gentlemen? It's going to adjust it there. Slow connection. I know it's a slow connection, but it's a slow connection. Okay. Hello, Kim. Hello, Shira. How are you? Shira, I'm glad you're watching. I'm being told there's a slow connection. Even here, I'm seeing a slow connection. Don't know why, but we're connected. Okay. Ready? So I see on my personal page people are watching. If you're on Chabad.org, I haven't seen any comments yet on Chabad.org. If you're watching there, and again, siblings in captivity. We're going to have a nice crowd, so we're going to pack the house. We're going to pack the house. I'm an optimist. It's going to be good. We need to pack the house, or else it's not going to cover. Oh, and Gail's watching from cold and windy York, Pennsylvania. Hello, Gail. Okay, let's start. Ready? I'm going to welcome Sarah back from the Holy Land. Baruch Hashem. I'm glad she's here. Okay, my friends. Today we're going to talk. First of all, tonight's lesson is in the memory of Yitzchak Tzvi Ben Yosef. He's a Shem B'Shem Elevation. If you want to sponsor a particular individual class, let me know. I'd love to do that in addition to the course sponsor. We are going to be talking today about a very interesting woman, a woman whose name we barely know. There's more than one opinion even what her name is. She's never mentioned by name in the Torah. In fact, she doesn't even have a speaking part in the Torah, but she has a pretty important role, and she's pretty famous, and many Israelis will even tell you exactly where she is right now. The rabbis might or might not agree, but the typical Israeli could probably tell you where she is. Sarah's already giving me a look. What? Exactly. In Israel, there's a pillar of salt called Mount Sodom, right by the Dead Sea. That the Israeli historians or the tour guides, if you go into the Dead Sea, if you go into the southwestern side of the Dead Sea, there's a pillar of salt in a place called Mount Sodom. And today's tour guides will tell you that that pillar is the pillar of what once was the married wife of Lot. We talked about last week. We'll talk about it again today. But we'll get to that soon. So let's start from the beginning. We got the people watching on Chabad.org. Hello, Adam. Shalom. Okay, shalom. Alice is watching from Baltimore. And hello, Mindy is watching all the way from Kings Point. And hello, Mikael. How are you? I'm glad that you're part of our class today as well. So we're going to start from the beginning. Well, actually, last week we talked all about the city of Sodom and the wickedness of the city, the institutionalized and legal method by which these people behaved in an extremely wicked, cruel, narcissistic, and selfish way, where they were not just were they evil, not just were they selfish, not just were they sadistic, but they made it like a badge of pride. They created a culture out of this wickedness, and they created a society that not only allowed for cruelty to others, but they made it noble. They made it idealized. The idea of preventing tourists and guests from coming and diminishing the wealth of the city and diminishing from their economic status by having to feed poor people, and their minds feeding the poor would make them they would become a more poor city. They allow poor people to collect charity. They had all these kinds of evil laws to prevent people from coming. Someone came, they would put them onto a bed, and if he was too short, they would stretch his body on the torture rack to make him longer. If he was too long, they would cut off his legs so he would fit. They would give people money, and then they would write their names on this, and when they couldn't buy any food and they would die of hunger, they would go take their money back. There was a law forbidding the giving of food or help to poor people. We talked last week about the daughter. Some say it was the daughter of Lot, the young girl that was secretly giving a poor person food. And when they found out who was the one that had been secretly providing food to this poor person, what did they do to her? They took her naked body up to the roof, smeared her body in honey, and left her there for the bees to sting her to death. That's the kind of institution that Sodom had become, where they were afraid of poor people diminishing them. And so they created a whole culture, a whole legal system. The judges were corrupt. If someone hit you, I went through all this last week, they would say, oh, you owe money because he took blood from you, which was a form of medicine back then. And the Gezer was there, and the judge said, you owe me money for hitting you. So the Gezer hit the judge and told the judge, okay, now you owe me money. You can pay straight to him. So this is the city of Sodom. Now, there was a girl in this city, and some say her name was Idit. Some say it's Irit or Irit. Irit means my city. Idit means that she was an aid, a witness to the cruelty of the city. And she was a proud, wonderful, noble citizen of the people of Sodom. And Lot, it seems, marries this girl. He marries, the wife of Lot is a local Sodomite, if I pronounce that correctly, a Sodomite girl. Probably Sodomite, because it's Sodom and Gomorrah, I don't know, whatever. A girl from Sodom. And they married, and one day, angels come to the city of Sodom. Now, these angels that had come to the city of Sodom had actually come on a very special day on the calendar. When did they come? Anyone knows? It was the same night that angels had come to Avraham, that's correct, and said to Avraham, you're going to have a child at this time next year. You're going to have a child. And if you're familiar with those verses, when Avram sees his guest coming, he runs, he washes his hands and feet, and he says to his wife, run quickly, make sola matzos for our guests. And this night on which they promised that in exactly 1 year from now, when the sun will be at the same place, you'll give birth to a child called Yitzchak. When is the birthday of Yitzchak? When was Isaac born? Very good, Devorah. She's right. Yitzchak was born on Pesach, on the night of Passover, which is a night of tremendous blessings and protection and security for the Jewish people. That's the night when the Jewish people were born, so to say, when the first Jewish child was born, Yitzchak. The counting of the 400 years of Jewish slavery is not from the Jews go to Egypt. The counting of the 400 years, the clock starts now. The clock starts, right? The clock starts when Yitzchak is born. And so when do the Jews leave Egypt? Exactly to the day, 400 years, not 1 day over. God didn't even wait even 1 day to take them out. So they left on Pesach. So the birth of Yitzchak is on Pesach. So when do these angels come to Sodom? On Pesach. So Lot was not the most righteous of all people. I mean, he chose to live in the city of Sodom. If you chose to live in the city of Sodom, you're not that holy of a tzad, unless you're going to become a shliach and open the Chabad house there. But he did not open the Chabad of Sodom. Now, if you're going to open the Chabad house in Sodom, so you're going to change Sodom. But he didn't go to change Sodom. He went to become part of Sodom, to integrate and to assimilate into Sodom and to allow Sodom to change him. That's dangerous, as we shall soon see. So, we say in Yiddish fart. At the end of the day, it's Pesach night. A guy who grew up in the home of Avraham and Sarah, who saw guests coming every single day. Come Pesach, you want to have some guests on your table and do a proper Seder. And we know that Avram celebrated the Pesach Seder even before the Pesach story happened, which is not for, I'm not going to get to right now how he knew, but he knew. But he did. We know for a fact that he celebrated Pesach and he ate matzah and maror and all that. So, it's Erev Pesach. Lot's getting ready for a Seder in his home. And all of a sudden, what does he see in the city square? He sees two strangers, two visitors, two travelers that are passing through town. And they look a little lost. They traveled from Avraham. And he goes over to them and he says, my friends, you're going to eat by me tonight. You'll sleep by me. But don't go straight to my house because I don't want any people to see that I have guests come to my home. If one of the neighbors, all these utopian places like communism and all that, where you think everyone's living in peace and harmony, every neighbor is snitching on the other neighbor. So if my neighbors will see that I'm bringing home guests, they're going to right away make problems. So go in a roundabout way and you'll make it to my house. Go left, right, whatever, and you'll come to my house and I'll let you in and you'll eat by me. Okay? So the guests come to Lot's house undetected. They come into the house and Lot asks his wife to make a feast, to make a meal for them. Now, Lot's wife, fellow those who are watching, yes, it was Passover Marsha. Lot's wife was not so excited about feeding guests. She was a sodomite girl. She didn't believe in feeding guests. On the other hand, she was still a girl of that time. You don't fight with your husband. So what does she do? She goes around to the neighbors and says, can I borrow some salt? My husband brought home guests and I don't have enough salt. Now, if you run out of salt, it's kind of a question because you don't need that much salt. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, she ran out of salt officially. That was her excuse. She went to go borrow salt from the neighbors so she can make the meal. This was her way of letting the secret out that the neighbors could come and already prevent this terrible travesty of justice by feeding these poor people that will diminish from the economic security of the city of Sodom. Very quickly, a mob gathers outside their home and they're banging down the door and they're demanding that Lot release these two travelers that have come to his house into their hands to be taught a lesson. Not Hamas style, but a different style. Hamas would just break their bones, shatter both their legs, and then return the bruised and bloody body back. But here they wanted to sexually abuse these two visitors as well. They wanted to get to have fun with them, play with them. Lot is desperate to protect these people. There's different opinions if he already knew at this point that they were angels or not. At what point does he know that they're angels? Is a matter of debate. But either way, he tries to stop it. He says, let me give you my daughters instead. And the angel says, that's a terrible idea. And the angels walk outside the house and they cause blindness to descend upon all the people that are in the doorway. And all of a sudden they can't see and they're all grabbing each other and they're groping around, in the darkness and hitting each other in the head and banging into each other. And the mob, so to say, disperses. And at that point, the angels say to Lot, the city, now he knows for sure they're angels, you should know the city of Sodom is being destroyed. Do you still have anyone else that is that is here with you? And the rabbis tell us that when he said, do you have anyone else here? The Hebrew word here, is also the same letters as the word peh. Peh is mouth. Very good, Michael. Peh. They were saying, do you have any more peh? Do you have any more mouth to defend the behavior of the people of your city? Meaning all night till the mob had arrived, when the angels had said we're going to be destroying the city, Lot had been defending the city. No, it's really a very nice place. They're very cultured. They're very sophisticated, like the Germans. Yimach Shemam, right? The Nazis were also very sophisticated. They had beautiful songs, beautiful culture, beautiful poetry, beautiful music, whatever, beautiful arts. And Lot had been defending the people. And now when he was forced to recognize that they were coming and trying to kill and to rape these two visitors, and Lot was trying to beg them, please don't do this. So they say to him, do you still have a mouth? Do you still think that your neighbors, that the city you've chosen to live in is defendable? It's human nature. Maybe I'm going to go back to this. The desire to defend the people where you live and try and convince yourself, I live in a good place. My neighbors are good, they're righteous, they're patriotic, they have good intentions, they mean well. So he realizes he has nothing else to defend himself. They say to him, take your children and let's go. We're going out of the city. Now, Lot had 4 daughters, 4 girls, all Sodom girls, and they had married, 2 of them had already married Sodomite boys, and 2 more were engaged but not yet married. When Lot tries to convince his married daughters to go with him to escape the city, his son-in-laws laugh at him. Here, they're going to destroy the city. Sodom's a very big, powerful city. What do you mean they're going to destroy the city? What are you talking about? They laugh at him. His two unmarried daughters are still living in the house with him. He grabs them. The angels don't give him much of a choice. The angels are becoming a little aggressive because by dawn, the city is going to be destroyed. And now we're going to start to read verse 15, chapter 19, from this week's Torah reading. Chapter 19, verse 15. When dawn broke, so it's already the morning now. All night they're arguing. Comes dawn. The angels urge Lot on, saying, Up, get up, kum, get up. Take your wife and your two remaining daughters, lest you be swept away because of the iniquity of the city. Still, he delayed. He didn't want to go. And I'm going to talk about not today, but maybe on Shabbos. He delayed. There's a lot to talk about. He delayed. So the men grabbed him by the hand. They seized his hand and the hands of his wife and his two daughters, and Hashem's mercy on him, and brought him out and left him outside the city. When they had brought him outside, one angel was in charge of destroying the city, and one angel was in charge of saving Lot and his family. So they brought them outside. One went to destroy the city, and the other said, Flee for your life. Do not look behind you, and do not stand anywhere in the plain, which is where the Sodom is, the valley of Sodom. Flee to the hills, lest you be swept away. So they start to run away, and Lot begs the angel, please don't make me run so far. Let me hide in the caves, in the hills. I'm afraid to go so far. The angel agrees, and as they're running to the caves, what happens? Lot's wife could not resist the urge to look back at the city being overturned. The verse says that the city was overturned with salt and sulfur and all that. As the sulfur is raining down on the city and is being overturned, she looks back from behind him, Vatihi Nitziv Melach, and she became a standing pillar of salt. And Nitziv is translated here as a pillar, means a standing pillar, a monument, a permanent monument of salt. Fascinating story. And as I said, this pillar of salt, according to some opinions, still exists till today. It was a real pillar. It wasn't a make-believe pillar. Oh, I'll get to it in a minute. Let me go. Now, before that, let's go in order. I'm jumping a little bit ahead. Why did she become a pillar of salt? Of all things, she could have become a pillar of cinnamon, tastes better than salt. So Rashi tells us, a very famous Rashi, which I already kind of said, she became a pillar of salt. Why? Because by salt she sinned, and by salt she was punished. He said to her, give a little salt to these guests. And she replied, do you also wish to introduce this evil custom, having guests and giving a good salty meal with good flavor to our guests into our place as well? Our place, we don't do this. We don't give well-seasoned meals to strangers that are coming through our home. So you want to bring this custom into our home? This is a bad idea. I don't let. And that's why she was punished. As we say, midah kineged midah. Measure for measure. What's measure for measure? The way you sin, that's how God punishes you. You sinned with salt, your suffering, your punishment will be exactly in the way you sinned, because God is precise and exact in the way he brings retribution. And really, it's not retribution, it's the consequence of our action upon us. Okay. Now, what's wrong with, before I get to the salt, let me first deal with this. Where is this pillar today? So the rabbis tell us in the Gemara that there was a real pillar of salt. It wasn't meaning this. What do I want to bring out? This verse that she turned into a pillar of salt is not a metaphorical statement. It's not like some euphemism. Oh, she became bitter like salt or something like that. She physically turned. She metamorphosized from a human being instantly, like you would see in sci-fi movie. I'm gonna say, Lord of the Rings. I don't know. I never watched. Whatever, some sci-fi movie. Literally, zapped her, and she turned into a pillar of salt. That's literally what happened. Well, did I do it good? That's it. Metamorphosis. She became a physical standing pillar of salt that looks like a woman dressed in a shawl. That's what the monument of salt that is standing on Mount Sodom on the southwest side of the Dead Sea looks like. A woman in a shawl, size of a person, standing there. Her soul never was reincarnated, the Zohar says, which is interesting. Her soul was never reincarnated. She didn't die and get buried, and she was punished that she would become. She literally, at that moment, right where she was standing, became a pillar of salt. This is literal. So literal that the rabbis in the Talmud tell us, the Gemara in Brachas is going through a list of different blessings you make on different occasions. On the happy occasion, and the place where a miracle happened to you make a blessing on the miracle. And it goes through different places on the city of Yericho, different places, the Red Sea, Sea of Reeds, where we experience miracles, we make a blessing. So then the Gemara says, when you see the pillar of salt, you make a blessing. So the rabbis ask, but it's not a miracle, it's a tragedy. It was not a good thing. Everything else listed in the list is a happy thing. Lot's wife becoming a pillar of salt is a negative thing. So the rabbis say, actually, you're right. Rather, it was taught that over Lot and his wife, you recite not one but two blessings. You make the blessing over his wife, Baruch Dayan Ha'emes. Blessed are you, Lord, our God, King of the universe, the true judge, which is a blessing. You say with something, you found the picture. It does look like a woman wrapped in a shawl. It does look like that. That's correct. I'll tell you, give me 1 minute, we'll get there. Blessed is the true judge for something negative. And on Lot, who was saved from the destroyed city of Sodom, he recites the blessing, Baruch Zocher es HaTzadikim, blessed is the one who remembers the righteous. Meaning, the miracle of Lot being saved is a miracle. He was saved from being destroyed in the city of Sodom, and therefore, for him, you make the positive blessing, and for his wife that was punished, you make the blessing, Dayan Ha'emes. But the point is, the Talmud is discussing which blessing you make when you physically travel past the physical place where this pillar of salt is standing. Literally. It's not like a euphemism. It's not a metaphor. It's for real. Now, today we have a pillar that many people say, is that pillar? The problem is that there's no Masorah. There's no tradition to this. I don't know why some rabbis say it's not accurate. I'm not sure. But since today we don't know for sure where exactly is the pillar, there's no tradition. This is where it is. It's a more modern day theory. It doesn't have any, historical backing besides that it looks like a pillar. It's, good, looks like it. So today we don't actually make a blessing or blessings when we see this pillar. But theoretically, if we would have a tradition that this is the pillar, then we make a blessing. So why did she become a pillar of salt? Why did she become a pillar of salt? So I want to address two things today. They each could be a class, but they're each beautiful ideas. I'm going to try and do both. One question I want to answer is, what's the significance of her becoming a pillar of salt? Why salt? She wanted to give spices. Okay, so maybe make her a pillar of cumin. Yeah, cumin is more colorful than salt. I don't know. Why salt, right? Why not garlic and paprika? I don't know. All seasoning salt, everything on the bagel seasoning. I don't know, So, yes, salt is a very Jewish, but why salt? We'll talk about the significance of salt and the spiritual significance of the salt, specifically in relation to her and her sin of not feeding the guests, why the midah keneged midah, the proper measure for measure punishment for her behavior, was specifically to become salt. And then, God willing, if I have time, I want to address another issue, which is, what sin did she do? Is she being punished because she didn't feed the guests? Or is she being punished because she turned back? She's being, when she told them, she was still given the chance to escape after she told on them. After she snitched on her husband. After she got all the neighbors to come over and to almost break her door down. And to almost have her daughters be raped by this mob. The angel still took her out of the city, right? Which means that if she would not have turned back, she would have been saved. Now you're asking a question if God knows what's going to happen, and me and Rob will have a discussion later about that. But the fact is, if she had not turned back, she would have been able to escape, and she would have been saved from the city of Sodom together with her husband and her children. Meaning, she would not have been punished for the sin of feeding of ratting out her guests. The reason why she's punished is because the verse says clearly she turned back, and only after she turned back, that's when she becomes a pillar of salt. What was so bad about the turning back? What was such a sin? Seemingly the sin she did was being stingy. Seemingly her sin was she was stingy and didn't want to feed guests. She didn't want to give even salt for her guests. You know how stingy you have to be to not give salt? Salt costs nothing. It costs a penny. To be cheap on salt is that's the epitome of cheapness is to be cheap on salt. You can't get cheaper than that, right? Salt is nothing. You're cheap on salt, you're really cheap. So, but she's not being punished for being stingy. She's being punished because she turned around to go see what's happening. What's the sin of doing that? And what's the message for us, of course? Yeah.
She looked back on the evil that was in Sodom.
She looked back on the evil. Okay, so what's wrong with that?
Did she miss it?
Hmm? Well, I'll get to it. What are you going to say? Okay, so Saul's right, meaning you're 100% right. She was told not to look back, and she looked back. So that was a mistake because she didn't do what she was supposed to do. Fine, you're granted. But I'm asking a deeper question. What was so bad about looking back? So you're not supposed to see the punishment of somebody else, especially if you deserve to be punished with them. That's also true, meaning she didn't deserve to be saved. She was only saved because of Lot, really of Avraham. Not even Lot, of Avraham. It's the merit of Avraham that's saving her husband, and by extension, her and her kids as well. So she didn't deserve to be saved. So if you don't deserve to be saved, who are you to go look at them and say, you're getting punished. Look at this, right? You can catch a butterfly. So that's not nice because you don't really deserve to be saved. So yes, you're right. And Saul's right. She was told not to look back. Don't gloat. Don't be happy. Run for your life. And instead of running for her life, she's looking back. So yes, on the technical level, the sin is she ignored the words of the angels. Granted. But I want to go a little deeper, find a more spiritual answer that's going to have significance for me and you reading the story and say, wow, that's an important lesson for me to remember in my own life. It's hard to let go. The challenge of letting go. You're on the right track, Sarah. You're on the right track. Yes.
I was thinking too, is it because when she looked back, she saw God?
When she looked back, she didn't see God. She saw the anger of God punishing the place. Okay, so Ravit is giving a good answer. Ravit is saying, is there any mother in the whole world who wouldn't look back to see if she left her children behind? And that is absolutely Ravit, an excellent answer, which some of the commentaries say. But the reason why she looked back is to see if her other two married daughters maybe changed their mind when they saw the sulfur and the salt coming down the city, and maybe they came running after her. So that's Ravit. That is what some commentaries do say, and that's a very legitimate answer. But we're going to go deeper than that. Yakel, I'm glad you're enjoying the class. Mindy says, rather than being horrified at the destruction, she was curious to see what happened. Which, yeah, curiosity is a lack of empathy, a lack of basic human caring. And again, the angels told her not to look back. So she's punished for looking back. But we're going to go deeper. But first, let's address the issue of salt. And then we'll come back to what I think is the more beautiful. The salt part is beautiful too. Everything I'm going to say now is beautiful, in my non-humble opinion. But let's understand first the salt. So what exactly is salt? What is salt used for? Salt enhances flavor. Okay. What else is salt used for? Salt is used to draw the blood out of the meat to make the meat kosher. Okay. Okay, we make it. That's not the reason why we dip. I'm going to get to the dipping of the bread and salt, the bread and salt in 1 minute. Oh, very good. For those of you watching online, if you're joining and talking, the reason why we use salt primarily, especially back then, was not to flavor food. Its primary purpose was to preserve food. It was a way of preserving food before refrigeration, before they had vacuum packed sealed stuff, and before all the chemicals. That today's stuff can stay for like 45 years without expiring because it's all genetically modified chemicals and whatever. I was looking for a joke before the class. Just the last minute, I found a corny joke. This guy found some Himalayan salt from a Himalayan mountain 25,000 years old. He looks at it, he sees it expires next year. He says, a good thing they found it just a year before the mountain expired, right? So salt is used to preserve, to keep things. And in fact, it's a preservative. That's correct, Mindy. It's a preservative. So that's why the Torah tells us we have a mitzvah. What's the mitzvah that we have in the temple when we bring an offering? Which is the reason why when we dip our bread on Shabbat, we make the hamotzi. Really, anytime we make hamotzi, our table is compared to an altar. And every offering, the Torah tells us in Leviticus chapter 2, verse 13, anytime you bring an offering before Hashem, you shall salt the offering with salt. That's a positive commandment. In addition, there's a negative commandment. You shall not omit from your meal offering the salt of the covenant with your God. On all your offerings you shall offer salt. So we have both a mitzvah aseh, a positive commandment, and a negative commandment that every offering in the temple must have salt. Why? The verse says clearly why. Because the salt is the salt of the covenant with your God. Those are the words of the Bible. The salt of your covenant, right? The bris, the melach bris Elohecha, the salt of your covenant. Which means that the function of the salt is to preserve the covenant between us and God. How do we preserve the covenant between us and God? By bringing offerings in the times of the temple. That was the form of preserving our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God Almighty, by every single day, by every bringing offerings. By the time you sinned, bringing an offering. When you had a celebration, you had a child, bringing an offering, etc., etc. Now, I don't want to get into the offerings part and the salt of that, but I want to bring across the idea that salt is a way of preserving something for eternity. And therefore, on all your offerings, you bring salt. It represents that permanence in our relationship with Hashem. So salt is a holy thing to preserve and keep us going. This is also, that's in a holy way. Before I tell the next part, I'll tell you a story. Let me do this. Let me read you a story in the Gemara about salt. Okay? About tzedakah and salt. You ready to read a crazy story? This is a story from the Talmud in Kesubos 66a. The sages taught there was an incident with Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He was riding on the donkey and leaving Jerusalem. It was a time of a terrible famine and siege in Jerusalem. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, just for historical context, lived right during the time of the destruction of the temple, where the Romans besieged the city of Jerusalem, and there was no food coming in and out, and the zealots burnt down the storage houses. If you know the story, it's time there was no food. People were dying of hunger. And he's walking, his students are walking after him, and he sees a certain young woman who is gathering barley from among the dung of the animals of the Arabs. When she saw him, she wrapped herself in her hair. You know why she wrapped herself in her hair? She had no clothing. She was basically, I don't know if she was totally naked. She was not modest because her clothing was torn and ripped. So her hair was long because she couldn't afford to cut it. So she wrapped herself in her hair to hide her shame from the rabbi. And she stands before him and she said, "My teacher sustained me." I want to also clarify, what was she doing? I read it too fast. What was this young woman doing? She was gathering the barley from among the dung of the animals of the Arabs. I mean, the Arabs had animals that ate and then went to the bathroom. And they didn't chew their food so well like their mothers told them to. So in their dung, there was unbroken down pieces of barley. And she's sifting through the dung looking for a piece of barley that wasn't broken that she can eat. Understand how bad she's suffering? You understand how poor she is? If you're sifting through the dung of the donkeys to try and find a piece of barley to eat, it's bad news. She comes to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. She says, "My teacher sustained me." He said to her, "My daughter, who are you?" Doesn't know who she is, doesn't recognize her. She says to him, "I am the daughter of Nagdimain ben Gurion, and the daughter of a very, very wealthy man." Talmud told us some beautiful stories of his wealth, of the wells. Later, says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai remembered her wedding. He gave $1 million dowry for her wedding. Very, very wealthy man. So he said to her, "My daughter, the money of your father's household, where did it go?" She said to him, "My teacher, is it not that they say a proverb in Jerusalem that melach," the verse in Hebrew is melach mamain, the salt of mamain, the salt of money, is cheser, is to diminish it. Cheser, ches samach resh means to diminish. The salt of money is diminution, meaning to preserve wealth, you need to take away part of it. How to take away part of your wealth? By giving charity. By giving charity, that preserves and protects the rest of your wealth. Some say the proverb asserts that the salt of money is chesed, kindness, not cheser, to take away, but chesed with a dalet instead of a resh, to give charity. Meaning using money for acts of kindness preserves your money. You continue to ask her in the money of your father-in-law's house, which was used properly for benevolent acts. Where is that? She said to him, this one came and destroyed that one. They came into one household, they came together, and it was all destroyed. This is a crazy story. Let me say the story again. There's a girl who comes from an extremely, extremely wealthy family where you literally have multi-million-dollar money. And now she's so poor that during the siege, she can't afford to buy anything on the black market. She has no money. She's sifting through the dung of the donkeys, trying to find a little bit of grain that she can eat, a little barley. What happened to the wealth of her father's home? So she says to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, there's a famous saying in Jerusalem, Melach Momin, the salt that preserves your money to stay intact, is not a good stockbroker. It's not a good 401k. It's not a good brokerage account or good, investment portfolio with a good, a good blend of T-bills and and whatever. You know what's the salt that preserves your money? Chesed. To give some of it away, to diminish it. To diminish your money is what makes your money greater. So what makes your money greater. Or Melach Momin is chesed, to give charity. Either way, the point is the same. That what happened to the money? It wasn't used for charity. And because it wasn't used for charity, all of their money was lost. What does it say? We think that giving depletes what you have. We think of our money like a big pie of pizza. If you ever went to math, right? You ever learned math and fractions in school, you have a pie of pizza, yeah? Can't eat it, but it's a pie of pizza. So we think of our money as a pie of pizza. And if I'm going to take away a slice and give it to someone else, I'm going to give it to the shul, I'm going to give it to a poor person, I'm going to give it to do an act of kindness, what happens to my pie of pizza? It's now smaller. I have less pieces. It's simple math, simple physics. And yet the rabbis are telling us that the preservation of the salt, of the money, to make sure that the rest of the pie doesn't become spoiled and you have to throw out the whole pie, is to give away a piece of charity. And when you give away one of the 10 pieces to charity, that preserves the rest, that they don't become spoiled, that they don't become ruined. Meaning, let's go back to Lot's wife. What was the problem with Lot's wife? She grew up in the city of Sodom. And she even inculcated with this selfish and narcissistic mindset of the people of Sodom, as we discussed last week, that what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. And I'm not stealing your money, but don't take mine because I'll have less. And that lack of awareness of the other person comes from a mindset that if you take from mine, now I have less. Instead of realizing that if I use my money to help you, I've now preserved and salted all the rest of my money. So Lot's wife, who grew up with this mindset of Sodom, with this mindset that I have this, I have to hold on to whatever I have, I can't give any of it away. When guests come to her house, what is she saying? I need to go borrow salt. She thinks I need to go preserve what I have. I can't give my salt to the guests. In her mind, by getting rid of the guests, in her mind, she's salting her own bank account. She's preserving her own retirement, her own 401k, her own retirement portfolio. And instead, what is the truth? Exact opposite. The way to preserve your money is by giving some of it away. And therefore, what's her punishment? Her punishment is to become a pillar of salt. Meaning, the whole point is, this model of Sodom, of living in the self-centered existence, where you live in this mentality that I can't share with others because if I allow poor people into my town, it will make my city poorer, I'll make us not as economically rich, is a mindset of wickedness, as discussed last week. This was the message of her becoming a pillar of salt, not of cumin, not of because you want to preserve your wealth. The way to preserve your wealth is by sharing it with the guests that come to your home, by sharing with others that need it, and that's how you protect yourself. Okay. Now, my friends, I think, and before I go further, there's so many stories on this idea of when you give tzedakah, it actually protects you even more than you would think. So there's a story that I just confirmed now. It was said by Hatzalah of Eretz Yisrael, by a guy called Avi K. I don't know if it's full of Avi. He was in 2018 or something. He had a heart attack. He almost died. Hatzalah saved him. They gave him whatever. The ambulance came. This is in Israel. And his life was saved. He decided he wants to make a big donation. He wants to donate an ambulance to Hatzalah. Now, I don't know what it costs to donate an ambulance, but it's not cheap. It's not a $500 donation. It's, I don't know, 100,000, 500,000, probably more. Like an ambulance, probably, I don't know, a million. I don't know. You're talking about a big donation. It's a lot of money to donate an ambulance. And his friends are telling him you can't afford it. You don't have that kind of money. You're like, but he got into his head. No, it saved my life. And we know that tzedakah, tzedakah saves your life. So I feel like I need to give tzedakah to say that I should have a merit to protect myself. It took a long time till he got all the money, till he made the ambulance. He gave the ambulance in 2022. From when he had a heart attack, 2022, they dedicated the ambulance. Sometime after that, a few months after that, a huge fire came in the city where he lived. I don't know where he lived. He had a huge factory. That's what he had. He had a factory. And the fire was spreading, it was out of control. And the fire was already going to the factory. And the fireman said, we can't stop it. It was raging too big. The fireman said, the factory is going to be burnt down. We can't protect the set. We can just make a ring around it that it shouldn't spread past the factory. Fire came till the building, and it burnt the outside, but no fire came inside. No fire came inside the building, and they were able to put it out. And they said it's a miracle. We can't explain it. It was like they put some kind of foam or something. The foam like hardened like a thing. It protected the building, and nothing got inside. So God was protecting you. He said the whole story. It's on the video. This idea that he gave tzedakah, a huge amount of charity relative to him, and his friends told him, "You're crazy. You're giving too much money. You can't afford that much. You need the money. You're investing. You're building your business. You're doing this." But he gave the tzedakah, and from that tzedakah, it literally saved his factory from being burnt down to the ground. We can talk about this more, but I'm going to leave this for now. The point is that when we have to learn a lesson from Lot's wife, she is the epitome of Sodom. Sodom is, I can't give away anything I have to somebody else because then I'll have less. And the answer is the exact opposite. The covenant between God and the Jewish people is represented through salt, because salt is forever. And the way you preserve your money, the way you preserve the blessings that God gives you, is by sharing some of that with others. The salt of the salt of money is either chesed, to give it away, or to do chesed with it. And that was what Lot's wife did not understand. And that's why of all the punishments she could be punished with, what was the punishment she got? To become a pillar of salt. Okay, beautiful. Now, let's talk about one more idea, which is, why did she only become a pillar of salt when she looked back? If her punishment is to become a pillar of salt because she didn't know how to be generous and how to be kind and how to give to someone else in need. Is that clear? Any good? Yeah, my machronim, yes. Yes, my machronim is to remove any salt that's on your fingers. If the reason why she's being punished to become salt is because she was stingy, she didn't know how to share with somebody else that needed, and therefore the message that God is sending is that you're going to become a pillar of salt to prove that what preserves wealth is giving charity, is giving salt. So why did she only get punished when she turned back? She should have been punished right away. What was so bad about the turning back? So let's say we already had a beautiful answer. Ravit said in the commentary, she was turning back to see if her children had maybe escaped alive, or maybe she just was curious what was happening. She heard all the noise. Maybe she felt bad for her friends, for her neighbors. What's so terrible? Obviously the angel said don't look back, so she did something wrong. But what's so terrible about looking back? I want to show you a beautiful perspective, which is as follows. It's one thing to make a mistake. It's one thing to behave the wrong way, to be selfish, to be narcissistic, to be greedy, to be stingy, to be all the things that Lot's wife was when she refused to help somebody else. But then, it's even worse than being stingy? Worse than making a mistake? Worse than doing something wrong? When you're trying to escape from it and you're trying to change, and then instead of focusing on the future and focusing how I'm going to change, you start using guilt and negative self-talk to keep on reminding yourself of how you sinned, how you did wrong, or how you're really wicked, how you're really terrible. And you look backwards to prevent yourself from moving forward. If Lot's wife would have listened to the angels and she would have realized, I'm in the wrong city. These are destructive, selfish, narcissistic people who only care about themselves, and they're going to be destroyed. Their selfishness is going to self-destroy them. They're going to self-destruct. They think they're preserving their wealth. The opposite, because they were so selfish, they're destroyed. They don't exist anymore. They lost everything. So I get it. The angels are teaching me a valuable lesson. I'm going to run away from it. If she would have focused on running forward, she could have been changed. Even though she had sinned, even though she had absorbed all of this negative selfishness from the people of Sodom, she could have learned a new way of living. She could have gone back to Avraham and become righteous and generous like Avraham was. Instead, you know what she does? She looks back. And you can say the looking back in two ways. One is just, you can say in a more simple way, she still felt a desire for that stingy lifestyle. She hadn't really bought into this angel, spiritual stuff, sharing is caring and giving and preserving and all that. And she has a longing for the past. That's on a simple level, which very often we do. We try and become better. We know something is bad for us, but I still sugar is bad for you, but I still want it, right? I'm still craving the sugar, right? So on a more deeper spiritual level, I know that this behavior is wrong. I know being selfish is not really my best long-term interest, but I still feel good at the short term. At the moment, opening my bank account and logging in and seeing, I have, $1 million in my bank account. I feel good about myself. I'm not preserving it by storing it all, by hoarding it. Okay, so some people have they're yearning for the past. They're yearning for their old sins, and they have a hard time letting go of it. But on a deeper level, an even more dangerous form of looking back is when I know that it's wrong. I accept that it's wrong. I'm not yearning for it. But I start rubbing salt into my wounds, and I start looking back in a way of guilt. In the Hasidus and Kabbalah, we're told that salt represents the emotion. Anyone want to guess? What do you think salt represents? Guilt. 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 And is guilt a bad thing? Depends. Very good answer. A little bit of salt, a pinch of salt on your food is good. A pinch of salt, every now and then when you take a time on Yom Kippur or a moment of reflection to think about how you've sinned and how you need to become better, is healthy. But the moment you put more than a pinch of salt in your food and all you can taste is the salt, it's unedible. The moment a person becomes consumed with guilt, and the moment they start thinking, but I'm terrible. But I sinned. But you know how selfish I used to be, and I'm so, whatever it is. And we can't allow ourselves to emotionally move forward, and we can't allow ourselves to focus on the future. And instead, we wallow in guilt. It's like putting salt into our wounds, and like we're rubbing it in, and then all you can taste is the salt. And that's when she was punished to become a pillar of salt. She couldn't look forward. She couldn't allow herself to find the ability to move on from where she had been. Now, why is she specifically the example of salt, of this punishment? I can tell you something very deep. On an external, superficial level, you would think that guilt is good or bad. Not obviously, too much guilt ruins the food. But is guilt a good thing? Is it noble and holy and righteous to have regret on your past behavior? Only if it leads to a change. Okay, you're correct. People tell you guilt, it comes from a good place. Guilt is I'm trying to be more sensitive. I'm trying to be more holy. You know what guilt really is? Guilt is a form of narcissism. Guilt is where all I'm thinking about is me. There's a Yiddish expression. In English it goes. In Yiddish it sounds better. Pishef mir, kakef mir, abiyef mir, which means you can urinate on me, you can defecate on me, as long as you're doing it on me. I don't care what you're doing. You can be peeing on me, but you're doing it on me. I'm still the center of attention. I don't care what you're doing as long as you're doing it with me. And I'm involved. I'm important. You're doing it to me. It's a certain mindset. I mean, people consciously say that, but they're so desperate for the attention, they'll take it in any form, even if it's someone urinating on them. It's an expression, but there's a lot of truth there. Yeah. It's just, they want the attention. To become like addicted to it, you need it. If you don't get it, you become like insecure. The point is as follows. You know what the root of guilt is? Ego, narcissism, selfishness. All I want to think about is me. That's the root of guilt. If you're looking forward, you're thinking, how do I become better? And how do I help people? And how do I grow? It's not about me, what I did. It's about the change. Guilt is remaining stuck in who I was and who I am and how I was. And it's all about me wallowing in me. It's like self-pity. It's a different, more sophisticated form of self-pity. Self-pity is all selfishness. It's all narcissism. Self-pity is a form of narcissism. I know it's a harsh thing to say, but that's what it is. If you spend your whole day thinking about me, and how I feel and how I did feel and how I would feel and how I'm going to feel, how I feel bad because I felt bad, so I feel bad that I felt bad that I felt bad, really all you're doing is just in this endless loop of self what? Rumination. Yeah, rumination. You're ruminating in yourself. And you're thinking about how you felt, and you feel bad that you felt when you felt that you felt bad that you felt. So I'm going to feel bad that I'm going to feel bad that I'm going to feel bad. It's all about me. Lot's wife was all about me. Narcissism. Sodom was all about narcissism, selfishness, all about me. But not in the ugly way, in the very classy way. If I could be very blunt and say it like the American way. Like Americans. America's all about me. Give yourself me time, self-care, self-help. It's all about take care of yourself, do what's important for you. Who cares about anyone else? And sometimes it's healthy, like salt. Sometimes you need to do that sometimes to preserve yourself, to preserve what you're doing, you need to take time. But in context. And this is exactly the lesson for us from the wife of Lot. Lot's wife had the opportunity to run away from the evil of Sodom. She had the opportunity to run away from the selfishness and the stinginess of the people that thought that sharing salt or sharing what you have is going to ruin you. And instead of running away, instead of saying, I'm going to start a new future, I'm going to change, you know what she did? She looked back. Either she looked back with longing, and she missed those days, or deeper level, she looked back with guilt. And she looked back with salt. She looked back, and instead of thinking how I'm going to become better, instead she put her focus into thinking about how I was bad. And because she couldn't let go of how she had sinned in the past, she prevented herself from ever escaping into the future. Because she couldn't let go of her past, she couldn't let go of what she had done wrong, she wanted to remain thinking about it and wallowing and rubbing that salt into her wounds. That's what stopped her from being able to run away together with Lot and her daughters to start a new future in a new nation. That, my friends, is, I think, an extremely powerful lesson from the wife of Lot. Something I'm guilty of. Many of us do it. We spend too much time thinking about what we did do, what we should have done, what we could have done. Instead, the mistake happened. Okay, on Yom Kippur, you'll put some salt in your food. On Yom Kippur, you'll bang your chest. You'll think, well, we did wrong on Yom Kippur. A little bit of salt is good, but just a little bit. Any more than a little bit, you become an unedible human being. Good night, my friends. I hope you all enjoyed. Hazrat Hashem, next week is going to be another beautiful class. I'm tempted to do the daughters of Lot, but I don't know. We'll see if I can find it's in this week's Torah reading. So I don't know if next week is still whatever. We'll see. We'll figure it out. It'll be a good class. B'ezrat Hashem. God bless you all. If you want to sign up for siblings in captivity, like Sarah did right before the class started, you can do so. And God bless you all. Any comments, questions? Thank you, Stephanie. I'm glad you enjoyed. Yeah.
One question that I'm having trouble getting through is Lot's wife wanted to ask the neighbor supposedly
For salt.
knowing that the neighbor, if she's born there, she will not give because for her,
Correct. She knew it.
she's going to lose.
Correct.
So the question is why she.
Oh, she wanted them to come take her guests away. She was doing it on purpose. She was telling the neighbors, I have guests in my home. I need to borrow some salt so that they would come and take the guests, which is exactly what they did. They came to take the guests. And if the guests hadn't been angels, they would have been taken and killed or whatever.
So then the question
Say, thank you, Gail. Thank you, Mindy. Thank you, Alice. Yes.
Then the question
Thank you, Lori.
is why she
Thank you,
wasn't killed then, because she was trying to get
That's what I'm saying. She wasn't killed then because the angels gave her a chance to do teshuvah. They gave her a chance to start a new life. Just because you did something wrong doesn't mean that you're doomed to eternal wickedness. Judaism believes in second chances. She had a second chance to escape the city. And then she turned back. She couldn't let go. She couldn't stop. She had to remain with her old mistakes. And that was her downfall. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Stephanie. I'm glad you enjoyed. Laila Tov. Everyone, see you next week. B'ezrat Hashem. Thank you, Mia Kel. I'm glad that you enjoyed to learn and grow over these timeless lessons. You're very sweet, Mia. Beautiful. Thank you, bringing flavor and preservation to the world through tzedakah. Amen. Well said. Well said. Okay, Laila Tov, my friends.